The dawn of wisdom. The origins of philosophy in ancient Greece. What sparked the ideas that still shape how we think today. In the next 15 minutes, we'll journey to ancient Greece, where philosophy was born, and uncover the roots of Western wisdom. Welcome to episode 11, the first chapter of our 10-part series on ancient Greek philosophy, where we're diving into the origins of philosophy in a world of myths, city-states, and bold thinkers. If you followed our Philosophy Basics series, you've tackled what philosophy is, its branches, logic, ethics, metaphysics, and more. Now we're going back to where it all began. Ancient Greece, the cradle of ideas that influence science, politics, and your everyday life. Get ready to meet the first philosophers and see how their questions changed the world. Let's dive in. Why start with ancient Greece? Around 2,500 years ago, in a scattering of city-states along the Mediterranean, a revolution in thought began. People started asking big questions. What is the universe made of? Why do things exist? How should we live? Not by turning to gods or myths, but through reason, observation, and debate. This was the birth of philosophy, a word that means love of wisdom in Greek. The Greeks didn't just invent philosophy, they laid the groundwork for science, mathematics, democracy, and ethics. Their ideas, from the nature of reality to the good life, still echo in our classrooms, courtrooms, and conversations. Understanding their origins helps us grasp why philosophy matters and how it shapes our world. Let's set the scene. It's the 6th century BCE, and Greece isn't a unified country but a collection of independent city-states like Athens, Sparta, and Miletus, each with its own government, culture, and identity. These cities, often perched on rocky hills or by the sea, buzz with trade, art, and ideas. The Greeks are seafaring traders, connecting with Egypt, Persia, and Mesopotamia, absorbing their knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and storytelling. Yet, unlike their neighbors, the Greeks begin to question traditional explanations. Instead of accepting that Zeus hurls thunderbolts or that the world rests on a giant turtle, they seek rational answers. This shift from myth to reason is the spark that ignites philosophy. Who were the first philosophers? They're often called the pre-Socratics, a group of thinkers before Socrates who lived between the 6th and 5th centuries BCE. Unlike modern philosophers who write books or teach in universities, these were curious minds, merchants, poets, or wanderers, who pondered the cosmos and shared ideas in public squares. They asked questions that sound simple but are profound. What is everything made of? Is the world eternal or changing? Their answers, though sometimes wrong, were groundbreaking because they relied on observation and logic, not divine authority. These thinkers, from Thales to Heraclitus, set the stage for all philosophy to come. Let's meet the first philosopher, Thales of Miletus, who lived around 585 BCE in the bustling port city of Miletus. Thales was a jack of all trades, astronomer, mathematician, and merchant, who wondered about the fundamental stuff of the universe. He proposed that everything is made of water, a bold idea for his time. Why water? He saw it everywhere, rivers, rain, even in living things, and noticed it could change forms, from liquid to vapor to ice. Thales didn't just guess. He observed the world, predicting a solar eclipse and measuring the height of pyramids using shadows. His big leap was seeking a single natural substance to explain reality, moving away from myths about gods creating the world. Why was Thales' idea revolutionary? In a world where people explained floods or earthquakes as the whims of Poseidon or Gaia, Thales offered a rational explanation. He didn't say, "The gods make it rain." He said, "Maybe everything comes from water, and we can understand it by looking closely." This shift to natural explanations laid the foundation for science and philosophy. Thales didn't get it all right. Everything isn't water, but his method of questioning and reasoning was a game changer. He showed that humans could use their minds to explore the universe, a legacy that runs through Einstein to today's physicists. Next, let's meet Anaximander, Thales' student, who took things further around 550 BCE. Anaximander wasn't satisfied with water as the ultimate substance. He argued that the source of everything was the boundless, or apeiron, an indefinite, eternal substance beyond our senses. Why? He noticed that elements like water, fire, or air often transform into each other. Rain becomes steam, fire turns wood to ash, so the source must be something neutral, not just one element. Anaximander also speculated about the cosmos, suggesting the Earth floats freely in space, not resting on anything, and that life evolved from simpler forms in the sea. These ideas, rough as they were, hinted at modern astronomy and evolution. Anaximander's approach shows another key feature of Greek philosophy: bold speculation grounded in reason. He didn't just accept Thales' water theory. He questioned it, building a new idea through argument. This habit of challenging and refining ideas became central to philosophy. Anaximander also drew maps, studied stars, and wrote one of the first prose texts in Greek, showing how philosophy blended with practical knowledge. His idea of the boundless, though abstract, pushed thinkers to imagine a reality beyond what we see, a theme we'll revisit with Plato and metaphysics. Now let's talk about Anaximenes, another Milesian who followed Anaximander around 545 BCE. Anaximenes thought the fundamental substance was air, not water or the boundless. He argued that air could condense into water, earth, or fire through processes like cooling or heating. Think of breath turning to mist on a cold day. Anaximenes' idea was simpler than Anaximander's but still rational, based on observing how air behaves. He also saw air as the breath of life, connecting it to human existence. Like his predecessors, he didn't rely on gods but on what he could see and reason about. What's striking about these Milesians, Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, is their shared quest for a single principle to explain the cosmos. They didn't agree on the answer, water, boundless, or air, but they agreed on the method. Ask questions, observe, and argue logically. This was philosophy's first step, turning curiosity into a systematic way of thinking. Their ideas, debated in Miletus markets and ports, spread across Greece, inspiring others to join the quest for wisdom. Let's move to another pre-Socratic, Pythagoras, who lived around 530 BCE on the island of Samos and later in southern Italy. Pythagoras is famous for the Pythagorean theorem in math, but he was also a philosopher who saw numbers as the key to reality. He believed the universe was governed by mathematical harmony, with numbers and ratios explaining everything from music to the stars. For example, he discovered that musical notes depend on string lengths in simple ratios, like 2:1 for an octave. This led him to think the cosmos was a music of the spheres, with planets moving in harmonious patterns. Pythagoras' ideas were mystical as well as rational. He founded a secretive community that practiced vegetarianism, believed in reincarnation, and saw numbers as divine. Yet his emphasis on math as a universal language influenced science and philosophy deeply. Plato, whom we'll meet later, drew on Pythagorean ideas for his theory of forms, and modern physics still uses math to unlock nature's secrets. Pythagoras shows how Greek philosophy blended reason with wonder, asking not just what is the world, but how is it ordered. Now let's meet Heraclitus of Ephesus, around 500 BCE, known as the weeping philosopher for his somber outlook. Heraclitus famously said, "You cannot step into the same river twice," meaning everything is in constant flux. He saw change as the essence of reality, with fire as the fundamental substance because it's always transforming. Think of a flame flickering, never static. Heraclitus argued that opposites, like hot and cold or war and peace, create a dynamic balance, a unity of opposites that drives the cosmos. His cryptic sayings like, "The way up and the way down are one and the same," challenge people to think deeply. Heraclitus' focus on change contrasted with earlier thinkers like Thales, who sought a stable substance. His idea of flux influenced Plato's dialogues and modern theories of process philosophy. He also emphasized logos, a rational principle governing change, which later shaped Stoicism and Christian theology. Heraclitus shows how philosophy wasn't just about finding answers, but embracing paradox and complexity, a theme that resonates in today's debates about time and identity. Another key figure is Parmenides of Elea, around 490 BCE, who took a radically different view. Parmenides argued that change is an illusion and reality is eternal, unchanging, and one. In a poem, he described a logical journey to truth, claiming that what is cannot come from what is not. So nothing truly changes or ceases to exist. This was a bold challenge to Heraclitus' flux. Parmenides relied on pure logic, not observation, making him one of the first to prioritize reason over senses. His ideas force later philosophers, like Plato and Aristotle, to grapple with the tension between change and permanence. Parmenides' student, Zeno of Elea, defended his master's ideas with famous paradoxes, like the one where Achilles can never catch a tortoise because he must first reach half the distance, then half of that, and so on infinitely. Zeno's paradoxes puzzled thinkers for centuries and sparked advances in mathematics and physics, like calculus, to resolve them. Parmenides and Zeno show how philosophy pushed the limits of logic, asking what's truly real beyond appearances. Let's pause to see why this matters. The pre-Socratics weren't just tossing out theories, they were inventing a new way of thinking. Before them, people explained the world through myths, like Homer's tales of gods in the Iliad. The Greeks loved these stories, but by the 6th century BCE, trade, travel, and literacy were expanding their horizons. City-states like Miletus and Athens fostered debate, with public spaces like the Agora, where ideas clashed. The pre-Socratics tapped into this energy, replacing, because the gods said so, with let's figure it out. This was philosophy's Big Bang, launching a tradition of critical inquiry we still use. What made ancient Greece the perfect cradle for philosophy? First, its geography. Small, competitive city-states encouraged innovation and debate, unlike centralized empires. Second, its economy. Trade brought wealth and exposure to foreign ideas, from Egyptian geometry to Babylonian astronomy. Third, its culture. Greeks valued curiosity and free speech, at least in places like Athens, where questioning authority was tolerated, unlike in Persia or Egypt. Fourth, the decline of strict religious dogma left room for rational explanations. Together, these created a fertile ground for thinkers to ask why and how. Let's explore the cultural context more. Greek religion wasn't dogmatic like later monotheistic faiths. Gods like Zeus or Athena were powerful but flawed, and myths varied by region. This flexibility let thinkers like Thales question divine stories without fear of heresy, though some, like Socrates later, faced backlash. Greeks also prized competition, not just in the Olympics but in ideas. Poets, politicians, and philosophers debated in public, honing their arguments. This culture of dialogue, seen in the agora or at festivals, nurtured philosophy's emphasis on reason and evidence. Another factor was literacy. By the 6th century BCE, the Greek alphabet, adapted from the Phoenicians, spread writing. Thinkers like Anaximander wrote prose, preserving and sharing ideas. This shift from oral myths to written arguments let philosophy grow systematic. Meanwhile, Greek art, think of statues or temples like the Parthenon, reflected a fascination with order and beauty, mirroring philosophers' quest for cosmic patterns. Philosophy didn't emerge in a vacuum. It was woven into Greece's vibrant, curious culture. Let's connect this to philosophy's broader impact. The pre-Socratics' questions about the cosmos led to science. Thales' eclipse prediction and Anaximander's evolutionary ideas were early steps toward astronomy and biology. Pythagoras' math influenced engineering and physics. Their method, question, observe, reason, became the scientific method's ancestor. In politics, their ideas about order and justice shaped democracy, especially in Athens, where debate thrived. In ethics, their focus on living well set the stage for Socrates and Plato. Even today, when we debate AI ethics or climate change, we're using the Greeks' tools of critical thinking. Let's try a practical example. Imagine you're an ancient Miletus debating with Thales. You say, the world is made of earth because we stand on it. Thales might ask, but what's under the earth? And why does earth turn into water and rivers? This Socratic-style questioning, from episode 9 of our Basics series, forces you to rethink assumptions. Try it yourself. Pick a belief like, the universe is random, and ask, what's the evidence? Could it be ordered instead? Write your answers and share them in the comments. This exercise builds the Greek habit of questioning everything. Now let's address a common question. Were the Greeks the only ones doing philosophy? No, but their approach was unique. In India, the Upanishads explored reality and the self around the same time. And in China, Confucius and Laozi tackled ethics and harmony. But Greek philosophy stood out for its focus on rational argument over spiritual revelation. While Indian and Chinese thinkers often blended mysticism with wisdom, the Greeks prioritized logic and evidence, a style that shaped Western science and law. Still, non-Western traditions enriched Greece. Thales learned from Egypt, and Pythagoras may have traveled east. So philosophy was a global conversation even then. Another question. Why focus on the pre-Socratics when Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle are more famous? The pre-Socratics are the roots of the tree. Without Thales' question, what is everything made of? Socrates might not have asked, what is justice? Their speculative leaps made later precision possible. They also show philosophy's diversity. Some, like Heraclitus, were poetic. Others, like Parmenides, were logical. Exploring them helps us appreciate the full spectrum of Greek thought. Before we dive into Socrates in episode 12, let's tackle a potential objection. These ideas are so old. Do they still matter? Absolutely. The pre-Socratics' questions are timeless. When scientists study dark matter, they're echoing Thales' search for the universe's substance. When we debate climate change, we're wrestling with Heraclitus' idea of change versus Parmenides' permanence. Their method, questioning assumptions, seeking evidence, remains the heart of critical thinking. Episode 3, Basic Series. In your life, when you ask, what's true? Or how should I act? You're channeling the Greeks' love of wisdom. Here's a historical example to bring it alive. Around 500 BCE, in the city of Miletus, a group gathers in the agora. Anaximander, holding a crude map, argues the earth floats in space. A merchant scoffs. It's on a giant turtle. Anaximander asks, what's the turtle on? The merchant stumbles, and the crowd laughs. This dialogue, though imagined, captures the Greek spirit, questioning tradition with reason. It's like a modern debate on social media, where you might ask, what's your evidence? To challenge a claim. The Greeks taught us to demand reasons, not just accept stories. Let's apply this to a modern issue. Artificial intelligence. Today we ask, can machines think? Or what makes something intelligent? These echo the pre-Socratics. Thales might say intelligence is a form of water-like flow in the brain. Anaximander might call it a boundless process beyond physical parts. Heraclitus would see it as ever-changing, while Parmenides would argue true intelligence is eternal and unchanging. Their questions push us to define terms and test assumptions, just as we do in AI ethics. Try this. Ask, what is intelligence? And list 2 reasons for your answer, then a counterargument like the Greeks did. Share it in the comments. The pre-Socratics also faced challenges. Their ideas were radical, and some faced skepticism or ridicule. Xenophanes, around 510 BCE, criticized Greek myths, saying gods in human form were absurd and truth lay in reason. This upset traditionalists, foreshadowing Socrates' later trial. Yet their courage to question laid philosophy's foundation. They weren't perfect. Thales' water theory was wrong, and Parmenides' denial of change seems odd. But their errors spark progress, just as wrong scientific theories lead to better ones. Let's explore their legacy. The pre-Socratics influenced Socrates, who shifted focus from the cosmos to ethics, asking, what is the good life? Episode 12 will dive in. Plato built on Parmenides' eternal reality for his forms, while Aristotle, Plato's student, systematized logic and science, drawing on Pythagoras' order. Beyond Greece, their ideas spread to Rome, the Islamic Golden Age, and the Renaissance, shaping modern thought. When you vote in a democracy or question a news headline, you're living their legacy of reason and inquiry. Here's a practical challenge. Over the next week, channel a pre-Socratic. Pick a question like what is time? Or what is happiness? And spend 10 minutes daily writing your thoughts. Use their method. Observe, reason, question. For example, if you choose time, ask, is it a substance like Thales' water, or a process like Heraclitus' flux? Share your insights in the comments. I'm excited to see what you discover. This builds the Greek habit of curious, systematic thinking. Let's connect this to our basic series. Episode 1 defined philosophy as questioning life's big issues, exactly what the pre-Socratics did. Episode 3's critical thinking tools mirror their demand for evidence. Episode 5's logic reflects Parmenides' reasoning. Episode 9's Socratic method evolved from their debates. This series builds on those foundations, showing how ancient Greece turned curiosity into a discipline. As we move to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, we'll see how their ideas grew from these early seeds. Why does this matter today? The pre-Socratics teach us to question boldly, think rationally, and embrace big ideas. In a world of misinformation and snap judgments, their method is a superpower. Whether you're solving a work problem, debating politics, or pondering your purpose, their love of wisdom guides you to clearer, deeper answers. Philosophy isn't just history, it's a way to live with curiosity and courage. As we wrap up, think about this. The ancient Greeks didn't have telescopes or computers, but their questions lit a fire that still burns. They showed us that wisdom starts with wonder, and reason can unlock the universe's secrets. In episode 12, we'll meet Socrates, whose life and ideas transformed philosophy forever. If you're excited, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Drop a comment. What pre-Socratic idea resonates with you and why? Thanks for joining me on this journey to ancient Greece. Keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next one.